Call the member for Petrie.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Speaker. As a federal member for Petrie, my job when I come to this place, of course, is to represent the constituents, the 150,000 or so people that live in my electorate. So I've had a few people raise some questions with me via social media, which I wanted to quickly address. So I had Sandra Smith said, please ensure our live export is exceptionally high. I've had a number of people talk to me about live export. I have visited the cattle stations up in Northern Territory and had a look at first-hand how those ships and those farmers treat their cattle. People might not be aware that in Australia, whether it's sheep or cattle, that we're the only country in the world that actually has laws that when our agriculture is exported, that they have to be dealt with in a proper manner, in a professional manner, in a humane manner at the other end. If Australia exported, got out of that market, other countries would take its place and there would be no protections at all. So in many ways, Australia's involvement in this industry raises the standard. But I'd say to Sandra, I do plan on visiting a live sheep ship soon, and I'll report back to her once I've had a look at that. Joshua Allen wants to make sure higher education is affordable, and why is Queensland unemployment rates one of the worst in the country? First of all, in relation to higher education, Joshua, the federal government currently pays 60% of the bill, so Australian taxpayers foot 60% of every university degree and 40% is paid for by the student. The student can either pay for that up front or they can HECS it and pay it back after they earn approximately $50,000 and above. I've got the new University of the Sunshine Coast being built at Petrie in the Moreton Bay region, of which the federal government has funded a lot of funding towards, and it'll start in 2020. So basically, if people aren't able to afford to go straight up, they can HECS part of it, and the other 60% the federal government will pay. Now, in relation to why the Queensland unemployment rate is the worst in the country, I could be really partisan and say that's because you've got a Labor state government in Queensland and New South Wales has a Liberal government, but I won't pretend to do that. I think that's a question you'll have to put to the state Labor members in your area. All I can tell you is that the unemployment rate federally is 5%, and it's not an accident. It's because the federal coalition government has had a plan for jobs and growth around ship manufacturing, around free trade agreements, about small and medium-sized tax cuts, and it's working well. June Utski wants to ensure our borders are safe and wants to know what we're doing. As you know, June, we've stopped the boats, we've stopped children drowning at sea, we've got 2,000 children out of detention. When I came into office, there's now like 13 there or something. But we're also this week introducing the Telecommunications and Other Legislation Amendment Bill. Police currently can access, if they have a warrant of course, they can access go to Telstra and access text messages and phone records or intercept live calls if they think there's terrorism or other serious offences going on. This new bill will allow our law enforcement and intelligence agencies to go to the company that provide encrypted services on WhatsApp and other things and via social media. Now, if these companies are operating in Australia, they'll be captured by the legislation, which is really important as well. Jim Frew and Trish Lucina would like Australia to exit the Paris Agreement. We won't be doing that. I've spoken to the Prime Minister. We've signed the Paris Agreement. It's a 26 to 28% renewable energy target, or emissions reduction, I should say. And the fact is that we will meet that target. It's a way of moving to renewable energy. We still have coal and gas and other forms of energy which are important. I think it is in stark contrast, but Jim and Trish, to Labor's 45% emissions reduction target, and we know that they haven't given up on a carbon tax, which will see electricity bills rise. We have also brought in legislation this week to keep energy costs under control, and we're seeing many companies, energy companies, reducing costs, and including if you are a loyal customer to your electricity provider. In the past, they haven't passed on discounts to you. We're now seeing them pass on discounts to you. So I'd say to people in my electorate, if you haven't checked with your electricity provider, make sure you check with them that you're on the best deal. Now is the time to act. they are listening because of the federal government's legislation that we're implementing.